finally, we got ourselves a decent game to play with, but it sort of took things in a different direction. It took things to a realm that we'd never thought we'd see Batman wander into. It was the realm of Lego. Following on from the success of Lego Star Wars and Lego Indiana Jones, this was basically exactly the same type of game as those other two, but with a fresh coat of paint featuring Batman and all his chums. To this day, Lego Batman is still the game which features the largest number of Batman's villains. And although it wasn't actually based on any of the films, there were a number of homages to the movie here and there. For example, it used the Batman movie theme by Danny Elfman that had been used for the original Batman movies. Also, in one of the storylines, it features the Joker wanting to blow up the Gotham Cathedral, which is a reference to the first Batman film. And then in another part of the game, you've got a team of villains which make up of Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, the Riddler, and Two-Face, which is a reference to the Joel Schumacher films Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Although for some reason, rather than having Bane on the team, which would have made sense, they swapped him for Clayface instead. Clayface, by the way, comes across as a village idiot in this game for some reason, as do other characters like Robin. Although this was pretty much the same game as Lego Indiana Jones and Lego Star Wars, but with a fresh coat of paint on it, it did make for an interesting Batman game, and also gave you a number of driving sections as well. Even though it had sort of references to some of the Batman movies, it was a throwback to the sort of camp, over-the-top, silly TV series from the 60s, but it was still a right lot of fun. Another video game which drew back on the sort of camp silliness of the 60s was Batman the Brave and the Bold, based on the latest animated series. Released solely for the Wii, and there was also a DS version as well, this one played it safe by being a 2D beat-em-up, so it was pretty much like an old 16-bit game. And we'd see Batman teaming up with such guys as Blue Beetle and Plastic Man to take on waves of different baddies. Again, nothing special, but it was a nice throwback to that 16-bit era. Not too bad.
Hammers of justice. Justice prevails.
However, the best was yet to come. For on the horizon was the game that would not only become the greatest Batman game of all time, but the greatest superhero video game of all time. One of the most critically acclaimed video games of all time. A game that scooped more Game of the Year awards than any other game. I am of course referring to Batman Arkham Asylum. This time, we've got a Batman game that isn't based on the animated series or even any of the movies. In fact, the proposed video game adaptation of The Dark Knight was scrapped just to make way for Arkham Asylum. This game takes its cues mostly from the comics themselves, and is all the better for it. Whilst returning the Joker to Arkham Asylum, Batman realises all too late that this was part of the Clown Prince of Crime's plan all along, as Batman now finds himself trapped in the asylum, along with a motley crew of other incarcerated villains. But here, you truly feel that you are actually Batman, and that you can kick some serious ass in the way that only the Dark Knight can. From the start, Batman can take on over a dozen or so of Arkham's inmates, and bring them all down without even breaking a sweat. Although you'll need to be careful, as later on in the game the inmates will be carrying lead pipes, knives, stun sticks, and even guns. Luckily, beating up the thugs is extremely satisfying, thanks to the game's easy to pick up, difficult to master combat system. Of particular enjoyment is when you land the final blow to the last thug and it all goes into slow-mo. These guys shouldn't really cause you any problems, but it's the who's who of Batman villains that should provide a real challenge. Naturally, the highlight of the villains is the Joker himself, voiced once again by Mark Hamill, who plays off brilliantly against Kevin Conroy's Batman. Other villains of note include Harley Quinn, Killer Croc, Bane, and Poison Ivy. And the battles against the Scarecrow are particularly memorable. Some of the boss battles will certainly test your gameplay prowess, and the main questline will take a good 7 to 8 hours to complete. And that's without hunting down all of the Riddler trophies and challenges. But there's a lot more to this game than just face punching or batarang lobbing. Batman will also need to use the element of stealth in certain sections of the game, and will need to sneak through air ducts and darkened corridors in order to get the drop on his foes. In many ways, Batman out-sneaks Solid Snake in the stealth department. Batman can execute silent takedowns, hang upside down from a gargoyle to string up an unfortunate foe, or glide across the room with a well-placed boot to the face. How you take out your foes is up to you, as you quietly stalk your prey, taking them out one by one. As enemies are taken out, their buddies will start to panic and act irrationally. This is a lot of fun, seeing Joker's henchmen freaking out like this, but sometimes they will group together for protection, so you'll need to time your attacks with precision when one of them breaks away from the group. Batman also has a wide variety of gadgets to use throughout the game. By switching to detective mode, Batman is able to use the built-in computer inside his mask to have a sort of limited X-ray vision, which is kind of cheating really, as it allows you to see through walls and see where all the baddies are. And it's often quite tempting to play through the entire game in this mode. Batman will also use this detective mode throughout the game to trace fingerprints, follow a trail of tobacco, and isolate traces of whiskey in order to track down a corrupt prison guard. Other gadgets of note include remote-controlled batarangs and exploding gel. They are also grappling hooks and other little gizmos for hacking security locks. Luckily, the game has also fixed the problems with accessing your gadgets that plagued Batman Vengeance. Batman can now freely access all of his various gadgets easily, and he'll pick up more and more of them as the game progresses. The size of the island that the Asylum is on is huge, and you'll really need to rely on your map and your detective mode to find your way around. I'd have liked to have seen some sort of navigational compass, like the type you get on the Assassin's Creed or Elder Scrolls games, but this is just nitpicking really. Arkham Asylum was a huge commercial success and scooped up many Game of the Year awards. Funnily enough, a Game of the Year edition was also released later on, which included some additional challenge maps and a pair of glasses that allowed you to play the game in 3D on any regular 2D television. Naturally, with such a massive success, it was inevitable that there was going to be a sequel. And lo and behold, the story continues in Batman Arkham City. Set several months after Arkham Asylum, Quincy Sharp, the former warden of the asylum, has taken all the credit for stopping the Joker, and has used his newfound popularity to become the mayor of Gotham City. After deeming Arkham Asylum to be unsuitable for keeping the criminals locked away, Sharp buys a large area of Gotham City, converts it into a large open-air prison, and relocates all the villains there. Hang on a minute. Sticking all the supervillains in a giant walled-off prison city, just like the one in Escape from New York? Hey, what could possibly go wrong? Well, Batman certainly thinks that something's going to go wrong, but this time it's not just the Dark Knight that you'll get to play as here, but also Catwoman, Robin, and Nightwing. Meanwhile, the Joker is suffering from the effects that transpired at the end of Arkham Asylum, and appears to have been struck down with a potentially fatal disease. But if he's going down, he's planning on embarking on the world's biggest jailbreak before he shuffles off this mortal coil. Mark Hamill stated that this would be the final time that he would do the voice of the Joker, and he certainly goes out on a high note. Using the idea that if it ain't broke then don't fix it, Arkham City pretty much uses the same ideas of those seen in Arkham Asylum. Once again, Batman will need to use his fighting abilities, his stealth skills, his gadgets, and his detective mode, but this time, having the action taking place in a city really opens things up here, and it's more of an open world than before, with plenty of side quests to keep you going alongside the main quest line. Okay, so it's not on the same scale as an Elder Scrolls game or a Grand Theft Auto game, but it is an environment that's over 5 times the size of Arkham Asylum, and a larger environment means more baddies to contend with, as a number of foes that didn't appear in Arkham Asylum get to show off their stuff this time round, such as Two-Face, Ra's al Ghul, the Penguin, and a bloody great big shark! Holy shit! Where's the bat shark repellent when you need it? The storyline this time round might not be as tightly woven as what Arkham Asylum had, but the fact that you can do a lot more outside of the main storyline more than makes up for this. And, like the last game, you can also play this one in 3D as well. Once again, the game scooped up a load of Game of the Year awards, which has led to a new Game of the Year edition coming out soon, including all of the extra DLC and costumes, including the animated series and Batman Beyond, already included on the disc, but also the final chapter, Harley Quinn's Revenge, which takes place a few months after the events of this game, and shows how those events have affected the Dark Knight. So, that is the history of Batman video games. Sure, the Caped Crusader may have had more than his share of crappy games, but the good games have been outstanding enough to more than make up for those. Put it this way, he's been a lot more fortunate than poor old Superman has. Come on, Rocksteady Studios, how about you make us a Superman game now? Poor bastard needs it. Anyway, until next time, this is the Big Daddy D, signing off. I'm Batman.